Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our quick publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
David!
Gagan!
It's not a nice time, this pod. It's a bit of a sad pod. I think all good things come to an end, Dave. Thankfully, not old school. But not me and you, thankfully. But as Paul Joyce tweeted yesterday, there's a deal agreed for Sadio Mane to leave Liverpool to go to Bayern, the worst kept secret in the last month or so, I suppose. But yeah, it's sad because it means a lot of things. It means obviously end of an era. He was one of the first ones bought by Klopp, you know, that first summer window. And then obviously it's the end of the front three as we know it, which, let's be honest, probably ended a year ago when Jota joined or something. Probably was the but it's officially done now. Literally can't play together again, and that does mark a bit of a sad end. But we have to be thankful to this man because he's. Let's be honest. When he first joined, Dave, we had a pod, I think, and you know. There was times where you weren't sure about the signing at the time. And then
it wasn't that I wasn't sure. I was flat out against it.
Yeah, that was it.
I was flat out against signing him. Because when he'd been at previous clubs, he'd be like really good August to October. And then he'd disappear for 5 months. And in about mid-March, he'd turn back up and he'd be really good till the end of the season. And my concern with him was, he's not consistent enough. Like, he just doesn't have that part of the game that is going to be required. And obviously, we're at this point, like you say, we're very early in the Klopp tenure. The only player who'd been signed before him was Marco Grujic. And then Sadio arrives. Now, if you remember, it happened quite weirdly. It was a random Sunday in June when news came out that Mario Götze had turned us down, and then all the journalists just dropped Sadio's name at the same time. And we were like, what? This isn't someone we'd even considered. Like, this isn't someone whose name's been out at all. And, like I say, you looked at what he'd been like at Southampton, and he was quite the stat patter. Like, stat patter, rather. He'd be really good.
That's what Sam called him, wasn't it?
Stat patter, yeah. But Sam was right, though. Yeah. He was at Southampton. And the other part of it as well was we still assumed we were going to play 4-2-3-1 that year. Because we played it the year before under Klopp. Now, we didn't know that Sturridge was just going to break and never be fixed again. So the assumption was it's going to be Mane wide on the right, which isn't a position he'd ever played before. Firmino was a 10, Coutinho from the left, and then Sturridge up front. That was the assumption. And he just wasn't the ideal fit for that role. But his very first game for the club in the Premier League was Arsenal away. And it became clear within the first hour that this guy was really, really good. And it became particularly clear on the 63rd minute when Adam Lallana hooked a hopeful, aimless ball down the channel.
According to JC, it was a great assist.
Not at all. Not at all. It was an aimless ball down the channel. And Lallana has said this himself. He said, I just hooked it down there and hoped he'd go and press them. and somehow Sadio gets to the ball, and then in the type of act that we'd only ever really seen Suarez kind of do, where a player picks the ball up, looks, sees there's like 3 defenders on him and thinks, yeah, I'll just beat all of these and score. He beats them all and he scores. And I tweeted at that point, yeah, I was wrong about Mane. Sorry, folks. But yeah, it was obvious from the off that Klopp was going to get something special out of him. And, you know, we all, obviously the front 3 we all think of is Salah, Bobby and Mane. But that first year at the club with Sadio on the right, Bobby through the middle and Phil on the left, they were special together. And they weren't as good as the latter trio, but maybe they were a bit more fun. Like, they seemed more bonded as a trio. And you remember they used to always celebrate together. And the running joke was that Sadio was always trying to copy the Brazilian boys with the celebrations. And he'd copy Bobby, he'd copy Phil. But they just seemed to have this bond together. And there was something really wholesome about Sadio as well, where it was like he was really trying to fit in and probably didn't see himself.
The new boy at the school, the new boy.
Exactly, yeah, like a new kid at school. And he probably didn't see himself on the same level as Coutinho at that time. Now, obviously, Sadio became a killer.
Yeah.
But that first season, there was just like a wholesomeness to him that was really endearing. And you had to fall in love with him. There was no way around it. I remember Bobby saying something on social media about, or maybe it was I think it was on social media, it might have been Instagram or something, saying something about Sadio copying him or something, and Sadio replied saying, "Don't put me down." But it was like a real kind of like little brother to a big brother type of thing.
Yeah,
but no, like
because this is mine. It's not yours. It's mine.
Yeah, and like he made his presence known in that first season, and like you said, that first season was so pivotal to everything that came after, and he's one of the last to go from it. Like, it was Matip. He's the only one still here. Yeah. Karius is gone. Klavan is gone. Maniger is gone. And obviously Ginny left last summer. But the big 4 in that were Matip, Karius, Sadio and Ginny. They're the 4 signings that propelled us from a mid-table team to a top 4 team.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, Ginny obviously, Karius was the first to be replaced. But his level was below the rest. The other 3 were all part of everything that came after it.
We lost Sadio towards the end of that season as well to an injury, remember?
Yeah, well, we lost him. Didn't we lose him to AFCON during that season as well? And then he came back and he was playing really well and he got an ankle injury or something.
Yeah, that was it. End of the season.
But he was so good that first season. 29 games in all competitions. Obviously, we didn't play in Europe. 13 goals. He was just such a field stretcher. Like, we could knock the ball in behind, and he just gave us that real burning pace that Studge could give you, but Studge couldn't do it as frequently. Studge had to manage his own bursts of speed, whereas Sadio could just run endlessly. And that was the real notable thing about him, was just the endless, boundless energy that he had. And that first season he really did.
Pace personified. Yeah, Jesus, he was rapid when he first came. And I love the analogy that we use of the schoolboy. You know, the new school kid, the new kid on the block, and slowly he turned into one of the prefects. You know, basically he turned out to a leader. Like, there was a big change in the way he carried himself as well. He was like, very much, let's get on with it. You know, every time we were behind, if he scored that goal that equalised, no celebration, pick that ball up, get it up, you know,
and get back to the halfway line.
It was all very focused, you know, from Sadio.
It was. And like, I think Mo played a massive part in that.
Oh yeah, let's go to that second season, because this was the turning point. Like, as in, we dialed it up a little bit more. Because remember, the first 3 months we had Coutinho as well.
Yes, and that was when the 4 of them played together. That was so much fun. Phil in midfield and the 3 boys up front, and they were just dynamite, absolute dynamite. But obviously that's the first season of Salah. And what everybody remembers from that season is Mo just obliterating all scoring records and everything in front of him with 44 goals across all competitions. And Bobby got 27, but Sadio got 20. And Sadio scored 10 in the Champions League. And obviously the two boys both scored 11. Like that season, the three of them were just on fire. And Sadio almost became the third banana that year. And I think it was that season, the team's success, but him sort of been outshined a little bit. I think that's why in year 3,
and year 4,
we saw a completely different beast. Like the Sadio Mane that came back for 18-19 was a monster, an absolute monster. He had a killer mentality. I think he felt like he needed to reestablish himself in the hierarchy of the club. And he was just a different beast. But in 17-18, I mean, he scored so many important goals. He didn't score the volume, but, you know, he's the one that got us a goal in the Champions League final. You know, he was the one that when the chips were down, we could often rely on him. And obviously later on, that became sort of Sadio's calling card, was that when Liverpool need a goal, it's Sadio who's the one that pops up with it. It's not always Mo.
Would you say they worked on something with him? Because the first 2 years, like we just talked about, he was scoring some belters as well. You like the low XG, smack it from anywhere type bang. And then he added the positioning, as in he was there a lot more for the tap-ins, the run-throughs. As that year came in for the 18-19, you would see him more striker type positions, if that makes sense, or I don't know what he picked up, but he was just there for the headers, because the heading grew much more year 3.
Yeah, he definitely started to play narrower.
Yeah,
like in that 17-18 season, the first year he played left wing, he would often play very, very wide, and then he'd drift in field, and Robbo would overlap him once Robbo came into the team that season. But in 18-19, Sadio's starting position was at least 10 yards narrower. And he was able to then make those bursts into the box. Rather than getting to the edge of the box with his burst was taking him well inside the box. And that got him in a lot of great positions. And then, as well as that, I think the success of Mo also led to a slight change in approach from Liverpool, where it was like, well, if we've got one guy doing this, why can't we have two guys doing this? Why can't we change the geometry of the team ever so slightly? And that midfield that season in 18-19, obviously with Fabinho, rather than Henderson as the 6, allowed the 8s to play a little bit wider as well and give a bit more protection behind those wide forwards. Whereas when Henderson was the 6, Milner and Ginny played tucked in quite close. We used to call it the Brexit midfield, but because they were so rigid and they were so boring, they never did anything. Just stand there in midfield.
Also, that the way we evolved with the fullbacks with Robbo and Trent during those years, at 17, 18, 19, that Sadio could afford then to not stick out wide, because he knew my mate's going to be there to cross it in anyway. And obviously they both blew up, didn't they, Robbo and Trent? They're a big part of why the front three scored loads of goals, you know. And I think
Robbo went to a new level in 18-19.
Yeah, Robbo and Sadio as a combination, like a partnership down the left, was phenomenal, wasn't it? I mean, the link up, the way they knew each other. I mean, yeah, you hear the banter from Sadio sometimes when he's not playing, and he'd walked in, I think after AFCON or something, and Robbo's in the pool. You miss me in that game because you didn't win, but you missed me. You know, it's just a nice. You could see behind the scenes as well. Very much loved, untroubled, no trouble to the squad. Just a happy-go-lucky, banter-filled guy, you know, and a leader as well.
100% a leader, yeah. And the thing is to consider, right? We played. So in 17-18, we played at least 54 games. I can't find the exact number, but because I can't be arsed to look. But Bobby played 54 games, the most in the squad that season. So we played at least 54 games across all competitions. Trent only played 33 of them, which means that there's 21 games where someone else was the right back, and there was 24 where someone else started as right back. And Robbo only played 30. So there's 24 games there with Albi Moreno and whoever else filling in as the... Albi Moreno started 24 games.
Oh, did he? He did? Oh, okay.
Yeah, Milner didn't play left back that year.
Oh, right, was he?
17-18. Milner played left back in 16-17.
Oh, I thought you played a few, just 18-19 just to cover.
18. Oh, no, I'm talking about starting.
Okay.
As the starting left back,
Right,
Milner was the left back in 16-17. Which also, was one of the reasons we changed our shape, because we went from James Milner at left back to actual left backs with pace. So it meant that the front three could do different things. But the point here is Robbo and Trent were only finding their feet in 17-18. And Robbo, you remember, came in, was a little bit inconsistent, but his crossing was out of this world. Yeah. And we were all getting quite excited about this. And Trent, you could tell he was something very different at right back. But in 18-19, what we saw from Trent, we were like, Jesus Christ, like, this is not normal for a right back to do this. No. Like, normally fullbacks can't do this, let alone want to do this. This was like having Beckham at right back, pinging the ball here, there, and everywhere. And I think the Trent to Sadio link up, which is always overlooked, but Trent's ability to hit Sadio either on a counter, on a back post cross, through the middle, it was unbelievable. And those two linking up, and like you said, the Robbo-Mane partnership down the left, those two were just completely telepathic with each other. Like, Sadio, without even looking, knew where Robbo was going to be. Robbo, without even looking, knew where the return pass needed to go from Sadio for Sadio. So Sadio got great symmetry with both the fullbacks, and he had a great symmetry with Ginny, who's playing behind him in midfield, and he had that understanding with Bobby. So as the pieces around him start to work better with him individually, we start to see more and more from Sadio, and he gets 26 goals across all competitions, 22 in the league, which is his best season for us in terms of league goals. And obviously we go on and win the Champions League, and he tears teams apart left, right and centre that season. Just carves them open. Nobody could cope with him that year. And what was so exciting for all of us is this is year 3 and he's gotten better every year. So is there more to come from him? And as it turned out, there was, because the following season, 1920, he's the best player in England.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, mate. He was unbelievable. And you know what? It's sad. I watched every goal of his last night. There was a comp made up to us winning the league of the front three linking up for goals. So I watched that as well. And it's just a historic trio, It's for us, for our club. I don't want to compare it to anything else because you know what, they're just all subjective. But for our club, it's one of the best strike forces we're ever going to see. Just for longevity of it in over 5 years, nothing ever lasted for us for 5 years. You know what I mean? It always used to change after 2-3 years.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's the longevity. Like, the best we'd seen to this point was Sterling, Sturridge, and Suarez. But we only got them together for, 18 months? And they were otherworldly, but it was only 18 months. This was 5 years. Well, to be fair, it was, as a front three, it was really 4 years, and then this past season when Bobby was in and out of the team. But we got 4 years of those three together just being absolutely perfect together. Now, I know last season, the 2021 season, Sadio obviously had his decline and Bobby had his decline, but there was moments and there was games where it just clicked for them. And the three of them were like it was 18, 19 again. The ball was just pinging between them and they were able to open teams up. But I mean, if we look at the 17, 18, 18, 19 and 19, 20 run, that 3 years, which is twice as long as we had the Sterling, Sturridge and Suarez trio, like they were incredible. And they won everything that you would want them to win in that time. They won a Premier League and a Champions League. And at varying times, you could make an argument for each of them being the best player among the three. Like Sadio was the best player in 1920, but I think in 18-19, you could make a good argument that Bobby might have been the best of the three overall. Now, I know he got injured towards the end of the season and didn't have a great Champions League final, but Bobby had been outstanding for much of that season. And in 17-18, it was Mo, because he scored 40-odd goals. So they were able to share the burden, share the balance, and I genuinely think from the beginning of the 2017-18 season to the end of the 2019-20 season, Sadio was one of the 10 best players in the world. He was on that level. Like, he was as good as anybody you could name week to week. They might have had higher peaks, but his consistency across those 3 years was absolutely phenomenal. And he did it playing 44, 50 and 47 games. And he returns 20, 26 and 22 goals and a boatload of assists. And like I said, the year we won the league, he was the best player in the league. And people with Player of the Year awards, and I don't mean Henderson or just Henderson, I mean all the Player of the Year awards that were handed out that year went to the wrong person. They all should have gone to him because he was that much better than everybody else. He was the best player in the league. And in that year, he might have been top 3 or 4.
Who won Player of the Year that year?
De Bruyne won Players Player of the Year. And I think, didn't he? Henderson won Football Writers. And then they tried to justify it by saying it wasn't just a footballing award, which is the biggest pile of horse shit ever. It was robbed from Sadio and the Players Player of the Year. I'm almost certain it was De Bruyne.
It was De Bruyne. Yeah, it was De Bruyne because Sterling won the year. Was it 8-17?
Sterling won 18-19. He won the Football Writers in 18-19, which is when the Football Writers lost all credibility with me because Van Dijk was by far the best player in the world.
They went after him, though. Remember about his house? He bought his mum a house or a car or something. Then they went after him. Then they got cancelled. The journalist got cancelled. And then they gave him the Writers' Award because it was out of...
You know why Sadio didn't get the football, the Players' Player of the Year that year? It's because Salah got it in 17-18, Virgil got it in 18-19, and they weren't going to give it to a Liverpool player for a third year in a row. So Sadio got absolutely gypped that year. He should have won that award. And look, De Bruyne is a tremendous player, but they finished 19 points behind us or something ridiculous. Like, he did not deserve the Player of the Year that season. It belonged to Sadio, and it should have been given to Sadio. It's the same thing with the year Sterling won it. Was just a farce. Like, Sterling won it in 18-19 when clearly Virgil should have won it. And I think Henderson was given it the next year for a lot of the off-field stuff during the pandemic, and also, you know, the fact that he was English, and they do like to have the odd British representative of their award. But no, it was Sadio across the board. And the Premier League Player of the Season also went to De Bruyne that year, which was, again, farcical. Sadio was better than De Bruyne that year. He was better than Henderson. That wasn't even close. It's one of the great travesties in these awards that Sadio didn't get any of them, because he's deserved them all at different times.
Yeah, he's won a Golden Boot, wasn't it? I think he shared it with Mo.
Shared it with Mo and with Aubameyang. 3 of them won it together in 18-19. He did win the PFA Fans Player of the Year in that 19-20 season, which, you know, is voted for by fans that actually watch games, not journalists who pretend to watch games, or players who don't watch a lot of football. Most players don't watch a ton of football.
Yeah, they don't. That's the problem. That is the problem. What else is there with Sadio? Yeah, I think just the range of goals. If you watched any of them back, the 120 odd, the range of goals is unbelievable, isn't it? He could pick one out from the edge of the box. That started to stop as the years went on. I think early on he was able to crack one in from the edge of the box into the postage stamp. I think the closest we got this season was the City goal at Wembley, where he's on the edge of the box and puts it in the bottom corner. That was probably the worldie that he got this year. But there's a back heel in there that he did. I think some of the headers he scored from the angles he scored was phenomenal, like off corners. He would be bending down and twisting his neck and fucking loop it into the
phenomenally good in the air for a fella who's 5'9". Is he 5'9"? I think Sadio's 5'9". Yeah, phenomenally good in the air, like freakishly good in the air for a man that size. But like you said, he could score any type of goal. Could beat a couple of players and bend one in the bottom corner. Like you said, he could end it in the top corner from the angle. He could absolutely rifle it into the top corner like we saw against Burnley and against City. He could score a tap-in. He could scruff one in off his knee. Like, Sadio scored just wide-ranging goals. But it is a sad time to lose him. And it is the end of an era because even though the front three sort of got broken up this past season, he's the first one of them to leave.
What does it mean for us? What does it mean? What does it mean for Liverpool? And
we have to factor in this, Gags, right? We've just talked about Sadio Mane 2016 to 2020, okay? And what an incredible player that was. Yeah. That's not the Sadio Mane we're selling today.
No.
This guy was a great player, and I mean a legitimately top 10 in the world player. The current Sadio is not that player. He's still a good player. Don't get me wrong. He's still a good player. He's still a very effective player. But he has altered his game as certain parts of his game have waned. Like, his ability to burst past defenders isn't there as much anymore. He can still beat them in a tight space, but you didn't, like, he'd lost that ability to pick the ball up on the halfway line and just burn past the fullback.
Yeah.
He'd gotten to the point where everything slowed down when he picked the ball up. He'd get the ball, he'd stand his man up, he'd stop, and loads of attacks started to break down. So credit to him, credit to the coaching staff. They altered his game. They found different ways for him to be effective, and one of them obviously was moving him into the central role, where he had a really good run of games. But the Sadio we're selling isn't the Sadio we had. Like, that's just important to remember. We're not selling the 2020 best player in the Premier League version of Sadio.
No.
We're selling a good player who's coming towards the end of his career. He's probably got 3-4 good years left, but not great years. Now, it'll be interesting to see at Bayern, because obviously Bundesliga, it'll be easier for him. He probably will go and roast many defenses in the Bundesliga. But for me, this is the right move for all parties. It's the right time for him. It's the right move for him going to another big club. Bayern get a star name in to replace Lewandowski because he's off. And we don't commit ourselves to a 3 or 4 year contract on extremely high wages to a player who is declining. And there's no point in denying the decline of Sadio. Too many people tried to do that for 18 months and tried to point to these underlying numbers that showed he was still the same player, and he clearly wasn't.
And would you agree that he would expect 300k plus 350k, like
100%?
Mo? Yeah, he would be, because he knows that.
He doesn't look at Mo and think that guy's better than me. He looks at Mo and thinks that guy's the second best player behind me.
Exactly. He feels there's an equal level at the club between the two, and I think Liverpool also respect them that way too. As in the club, the manager, the players, they respect Mo and Mane as Mo and Mane. It's a combination. It's a duo type thing. You know, because Bobby got left behind a little bit last 2 years as well. Like, you're talking about those 2 years, Bobby proper had a drop-off comparison.
Yes, But Bobby started to decline in that title-winning season. If we're all honest, Bobby wasn't particularly good that year.
No.
And he hasn't been good the last But he had a good run this past season, but he wasn't good in 2021 either.
That's what it was this year. The injuries kept
coming. The injuries, the minutes, the miles. Look, Bobby's style of play was so much work. Bobby put in so much graft for this team. He was basically like a defensive midfielder playing centre forward at times with the amount of work he'd get through. So, yeah, it was bound to happen. And the same thing with Sadio. I mean, we're talking about a guy that we put huge mileage on, that we were very demanding of in terms of what we asked him to do in game. Like playing left wing for Liverpool is not the same as playing left wing for a normal football club. You know, they're not asking you to play at such an intense level as we do. And obviously as well, he's been ran into the ground by the Senegalese national team, which I don't have a problem with. They're fully within the rights to play him as much as they want. And obviously playing for Senegal is a source of incredible pride.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, winning the AFCON for Sadio. I mean, look, I'm sure that he loves Liverpool as a football club. And I'm sure he loved Salzburg when he was there. But I will guarantee you that the Austrian Bundesliga, the Austrian Cup, and all that he's won at Liverpool don't matter to him a fraction in comparison to winning the AFCON. That is the pinnacle of his career. That is national pride. And I've said this before, what I love about Sadio and Mo is that as great as they are as players, they're even better people. Sadio Mane as a human being is a shining example of what everybody should aim to be, where this guy excelled, drove himself, got himself to the pinnacle of world football, got himself into a position where he was earning extraordinary amounts of money to play football, and took that money and gave it away, took that money and gave it back to his community, to his country, to the people that raised him up as a kid. They always say it takes a village to raise a child. And Sadio believes in that. And Sadio's gone back to Senegal. He goes back every summer. He's never forgotten his roots. He goes back every summer.
He was playing
builds hospitals
recently as well, in a park somewhere just recently.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Just goes back and literally wanders around town as if it's, normal. Like that this global superstar is there.
I wanted to ask you what you had a feeling about this, because I've read people saying, well, if he's so charitable and he gives so much, why would he want more money? Why would he want 350? Because this is what happens. When you're at your peak.
Because he deserves it.
Exactly. And he can do more then. It's not like...
Yes.
It's not like it's for him. It is for him.
I said this...
He secures himself, but he secures more people too.
I said this on the Daily Red yesterday, Gags. Sadio isn't looking for this money so that he can go and buy himself a Lamborghini or a Lamborghini yacht or a bigger house or flashy jewellery or Armani suits or fucking crocodile skin shoes or any of that. Sadio is looking for this money for two reasons. Number one, because he deserves it. Because he's earned it. Because he's established himself as one of the best players in the world. And whether or not he's still among that very elite, I don't think he is, but he will believe that he is. And there is a perception from those that don't watch him on a regular basis that he still is. Because I've seen City and United and Arsenal fans go, well, why are they selling Mane? Well, we're selling Mane because it's time to sell him. So there's still a perception out there that he's still the guy. So, he believes that. He deserves them. And secondly, like you said, if I've got...
Take football out of it.
If I've got 10 apples, if I've got 10 apples and only want to eat 2 of them, that means I've got 8 apples to give away.
Yeah.
If I've got 50 apples and only want to eat 2 of them, if I've got 48 apples to give away, I can give an apple to more people.
Yeah, exactly.
So he can give more back. Sadio Mane will build hospitals. He will build more schools. He will build more footballing academies. He will do more for his country the more money that he has, because that is the type of human being this guy is. This guy doesn't care about being flash. Sure, he likes to have nice things because he fucking deserves to have those nice things, and not one person should begrudge him those nice things. But he wants to help people. Like Sadio does. And the thing is, We will
But Dave,
never, ever
take
know
that
the
out.
extent of what he does off the pitch.
No one
ever.
knows. Yeah, no one knows. But take that out. Even if it's just a normal human guy, why would you? Even if they're just charitable people and they're top of their game, why would you? Any human would do it. Any guy, any girl,
Yeah.
any woman would do. Any person would go and take that money. They would say, this is what I'm valued at. I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah.
You would do it. I would do it. Listen, I just don't
Also,
understand
look,
when people ask the question, doesn't need it or why is he getting it? It's like, fuck's sake, man. It's natural.
As if these people wouldn't turn it down. As if these same chumps sitting here saying, oh, if he really loved the club, he'd turn. Go for a walk in the park, you absolute ming. You would take the money. You would always take the money because that is human nature. And look, is there an ego thing with Sadio? Sure.
Of course, they must.
Sure, there's an ego thing. He's not going to say to Liverpool, all right, fair enough, give me 250 grand a week. That's fine. We'll call it even. That's okay. And then a month later, Mo gets 400 grand a week. He's not going to go, hang on a sec. This is fine. This is okay. Yeah. He's going to go, wait a second, what the fuck? Like, I'm taking 250 and he's on 400 and we're the same level because he will believe they're the same level. So, of course, he's going to ask for the same kind of money as Mo was asking.
There's an element here that Rami and his agents have been working together too, that they know, both of them know what they're asking for, so there has to be a natural selection. There has to be a selection of which one do Liverpool want to keep and which one's more likely to go and move and be happy to move. And I think it was always Sadio.
Sadio was always the one more likely to move, guys. Always. If the pandemic hadn't happened, Sadio would have left in 2020.
Wow.
People can like that or not, but Sadio would have left in 2020.
Big fee though, big fee.
It would have been 100 million plus, but he would have been gone. He'd have been gone to Real or he'd have been gone to PSG. His agency have been talking to PSG about him going there for a couple of years. Yeah, and PSG wanted to do this whole thing where they get Mane in and they go, because they're planning to basically take over Africa in terms of building academies. And they wanted Sadio to be the face of that.
Yes.
So he would have gone there. Now, that their plans changed, obviously, because Mbappe ended up staying. That's why they didn't come in from this summer.
Mbappe, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what yeah.
They'd have sold Mbappe in 2021, probably with a year left on his contract, if they'd gotten Sadio pre-pandemic. But remember as well, like, they didn't expect to get Messi.
No.
So if they hadn't got Messi last summer, they probably would be in for Sadio this summer, even with Mbappe staying. Yeah, but they have Messi. So, like, you've got Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar. You just can't fit Sadio in.
No.
And he's not going to go there to be a sub. And also, I'd imagine Ginny Wijnaldum's been on the phone and said, listen, bud, don't come here. No. Whatever you do, don't come here.
It's toxic, I bet. The whole thing's toxic.
I'd say it's absolutely appalling. I'd say the culture of that club is rotten to the core.
And I hope the culture buying with the players is actually good, because he's going to be in for a rude awakening otherwise. I really hope there's not too much politics.
I don't think the culture at Bayern's great. I really don't. I look at, like, I think it was a few years ago, but I mean, they've lost Thiago, they've lost Alaba. That's two big voices in that dressing room. And greed seems to have taken hold because, and look, it's ego as well. Like, but they signed Leroy Sané on 400 grand a week, and within the 2 years since that's happened, Kimmich, Goretzka, Coman, and Gnabry have all had contract disputes with Bayern because they were all like, "Well, hang on a sec, we've put in the work here. You're buying this fella in on 4." This is why we didn't sign Erling Haaland, by the way, folks. Because if we'd gone and signed Erling Haaland on 400 grand a week, we would have had a revolt in the dressing room. Because our lads would have been like, hang on a sec, we've put in the work here. We've put in the hours here. We've had the success here. We've built what this is. And this guy's going to parachute in on far more. If Mo gets 400 grand a week, he will have earned it at Liverpool. That's very different to somebody parachuting in from abroad. And like, the Bayern players were open about that because Lewandowski was on the same type of money as Sané, and none of the players had a problem with that. Manuel Neuer was on that money. None of the players had a problem with it because they'd earned it at Bayern. But once Sané arrived, you got Gnabry, Kimmich, Goretzka, and Coman all going, hang on a sec, where the fuck is ours? Like, where's our money? And I do, like, Sadio's going to go in on about parity with them, and I think that'll be okay. I think there's a respect of Sadio as well. But I do think there's an issue in that dressing room.
But I think Sadio comes in with a proper world-class tag, like as in had it. And he's he's going.
And look, he's going to go and score a bundle of goals there as well. Like, it's the Bundesliga we're talking about here. Like, Timo Werner scored for fun in the Bundesliga. He couldn't hit a cow's arse with a banjo in the Premier League. So, he will score a lot of goals. He'll be a bit frustrating at times. He's always been a bit frustrating. There's moments where you'd question some of his decision making on the pitch. But look, as long as they put him in good positions and they don't expect him to still be left wing Sadio, I think he'll be great for them. I think he'll score a ton of goals. But as I was saying, it's the right time for us to sell. Get some money for him. We've got the replacement in Darwin, and we just move on. And he moves on, and it ends on good terms.
Who does he play with? Sané and Coman?
I would say, Sané and Coman will be the two starting wingers, with him up front and with Sadio up front, and probably Muller as the 10. And then you've got Gnabry, if he stays, as the third winger who can rotate. You've got Jamal Musiala. He'll get a lot of service. And they've got Alphonso Davies at left back. They've just signed Nazar Mizraoui at right back, who's a decent crosser of the ball. So he's going to get a ton of service. So he's going to get lots of opportunities to score a lot of goals.
Great deal for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, the price is low for us. 27.5 plus add-ons or whatever it is. It's low.
I think they did Bayern a favour.
Yes, they did Sadio a favour.
But they didn't also want to fill Southampton's pockets because... Yes,
the sell-on clause.
The 10%. So they were like, you know what, anything above that, forget it. We'll take all the money ourselves. We don't want to give anything to them. Because I think we've probably given them a lot of money over the last few years.
Oh, yeah, in terms of just the add-ons and stuff that we had to give them after some of the deals. And obviously, just the fact that Brendan Rodgers just gave them 50 million for absolutely nothing in one summer was always impressive. But yeah, I think the sell-on clause was definitely a factor. But I also think, look, Sadio gave us a lot. Like, he gave us everything he had for 6 years. One thing you could never look at Sadio, even in the 2020-21 season where he was stinking the place out, you never looked at him and thought, he's not trying. Like, if anything, you'd look at it and say, like, you're trying too hard, Sadio. You're putting in too much work here for not enough results. Like, if you pull it back a little bit, you might be able to get a bit more out of what you're doing. Sadio's given us everything for 6 years.
Yeah.
And he's given us a Premier League, a Champions League, 2 domestic cups, Super Cup, World Club Cup. He gave us everything.
It's unheard of for a player to do that. In like Liverpool's history, I think this group is the first group to have ever done all of them. All of them. Every single one. There was always something missing. Like Paisley was missing the FA Cup.
FA Cup.
You know, there was always something.
Shankly didn't win the European Cup.
No, exactly. This is actually the first era then that have literally, or this group of players that have been the major first team that have won every. It goes away a legend, undoubtedly. One of the greats, one of the greats. So yeah, hats off to him, man. He was superb for us. Enjoyed every single second he was on the pitch, and he always gave everything. That's one thing you could say about Sadio. The pressing, by the way, Sadio's improvement in pressing. He scored goals while pressing as well.
Do you remember the first year of his pressing though?
It wasn't good.
It was just like T-ball, chase ball. Him and Lallana running like fuck after fellas and never getting anywhere close to them. But when Sadio went to the left side, something seemed to trigger with him. And all the angles started to make more sense for him. And there was always clips going around on social media of Sadio preparing to press. And it might be like a back pedal 20 yards across the pitch to get an angle or block a passing lane. And then he's like kind of waiting, and it's almost like he's in this suspended animation where his body's twitching and he's waiting for one person to get the ball in particular. And as soon as they did, he was just all over them. And he was an absolute menace. And the other thing he did, which I think he might be one of the best I've ever seen in this regard, that fella chased fullbacks all the way back down the pitch. There were times when Andy Robertson got beaten and the next fella up was Sadio Mane to tackle them behind Robbo because he was after busting his ass to get back and help. That fella left everything on the pitch every single time he played. We can never, ever doubt his effort, his commitment to the cause. This season, Sadio knew he was leaving this summer, and he's known for a year. And Liverpool have known for a year that he was leaving. There's a reason we never heard of real contract talks between Liverpool and Sadio. It's been Mo. There was some rumblings last summer, and then it went away. And every so often, one of the journalists will say, talks with Mane are expected to begin in the next couple of weeks, and then they never would. And the reason was he knew he was leaving. And he knew he was leaving before the Champions League final, but you wouldn't question a single minute of him on the pitch and the commitment he showed. No. Even when he knew, I'm not playing for this club next year. Maybe I should be protecting myself as an asset. Maybe I should be holding back a little bit so that I'm more appealing to clubs. And I'm not going into the summer with a major injury or any of that nonsense. Not a bit of it. Sadio Mane always gave every single ounce he had. And that's why that, like I mentioned, that wholesomeness we had with him in the first season, that humble nature of him, all the stuff he does away from the pitch, which, like I said, we know about maybe 20% of what he does. That's it. I guarantee you there are
something dodgy, Dave,
hundreds of people in Senegal getting money from him on a monthly basis to make their lives easier.
He posted something dodgy to Verge on Instagram on a story that I was what I looked at, and it was something like maybe for the last time, and it was something to do with last time, but it was like in March or something. Like he it was like or Feb, and I was like, "Fucking hell, that's a bit early, dude."
Guys, I've been saying on these podcasts for a year that Sadio was going because everybody's known that he was leaving. Yeah, he did. The breadcrumbs were there all along. Like I said, look at the situation with the contract. Like he would have stayed if we'd offered him 400 grand a week. And I'm sure if we had unlimited resources, we would have happily given him 400 grand a week. But it would have been 400 grand a week, and by the way, you're not an every game starter anymore. Which again is not going to suit what Sadio wants.
No way.
Do you know? That's just if we had City's money, that's what we would have done. We'd have given him what he wanted, and he would have just been one of the 5 rotating options in attack and whatever else. But Sadio wants to start every game. So I'm sure there were early conversations, like you said, the two agencies, Mo's and Sadio's, probably had a chat and said, "Look, what are you going to ask for? We'll go in and ask for similar money, and we'll see where we stand." And I reckon they put an offer to Liverpool, and Liverpool went, "We're not really sure." And Sadio went, "That's fair enough. I'm going to consider other options, maybe look for a new challenge." And Liverpool went, "Fine. If you can find that other option, come back to us, and we'll see if we can match it. And if not, we'll facilitate a move for you to go to that club." And that's what they've done here. They have facilitated a move for him to Bayern Munich. I think part of it is they do want to build a decent relationship with Bayern, which began with the Thiago move to us and now continues with this. But I think most of it is we wanted to make Sadio happy because we fucking owed it to him. We owed it to him.
Yeah,
he has earned every single bit of his. He has earned all the flowers. Give that man his flowers. The farewell to Sadio better be fairly spectacular from the club. I'm talking about a big old tribute video. And I'm telling you, if we draw Bayern in the Champions League, it needs to be a 10-minute round of applause when he sets foot on the pitch. Because nothing else is good enough for what he gave us for 6 years.
Yeah. I think there's no worry about if he came back to Anfield, he would get an absolute Massive.
I'm saying it has to be different than like when shit players have come back that people liked because they were nice guys and they get a standing ovation. I'm saying it needs to be so much more than that for this guy. This is a Liverpool legend, guys.
Yeah, we didn't know he was.
And we didn't get to say goodbye properly.
Yeah, we didn't.
Now, look, you know, we're losing him. We're losing Divock this summer. Divock, we need to be clear on this. Divock had incredible moments for Liverpool. He is a cult hero. He's not a legend of the club. To be a legend of the club, you have to be one of the greatest players of the club. That's not Divock. He had great moments, iconic moments. Sadio is a bona fide legend of this club. If you're listing the greatest ever players to play for Liverpool, he's in the top 20 ever. That's a legend.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. There's no doubt in my mind that he's trailblazed here. It's been unbelievable. It's a sad, like you said, it's a sad day, and we're going to get a lot of sad days because the golden generation is about.
They're going to age out. That's the thing. Like Bobby could go next summer, Mo could go next summer. Matip is now the last remaining light of the first transfer summer from Klopp. So, you know, he's one of that last generation as well, and obviously. It'll be
losing a lovely man as well, by the way.
Losing Joel at some point will be absolutely heartbreaking because he might be the most
adorable,
entertaining man,
an adorable man.
It is. It's tough, and the thing is, like I said, I've been saying for a year that Sadio was going to leave this summer.
It makes it harder because they're not dickheads. None of them are dickheads.
But the thing is, Gags, I'm still fucking devastated, even though I've known he was going.
Yeah.
Or not known he was going, but I've had the fair inclination he was going. It's still really hard, and it's more hard from a human being point of view.
Yeah.
Because I like that our club are all good lads. Like, they're all good human beings. They do incredible stuff away from football, and that's far more important than kicking a ball about on a fucking piece of grass. Like, I'm sorry, I know the whole purpose of it is to kick a ball about in a piece of grass. But when I see players, it's one of the reasons I think Marcus Rashford is one of the finest examples of what a young man should be. When I see players who take the extraordinary wealth they earn from playing football and give it back and use their platforms to give back and make life better for other people, less fortunate people, the people who helped them in their early days, or just people who were like how they were. Like, if Rashford grew up in poverty, so he's very much aware that childhood poverty is a thing, that there's a lack of food in the UK, or a lack of availability of food in the UK for families under the poverty threshold. So he's giving back in that regard. Sadio gives back in Senegal because he knows what it's like to grow up in that kind of poverty. And although for him, maybe when he was growing up, it didn't seem like poverty because it's all relative, I suppose. Like, he wants to improve the life of everybody that he's come across, everybody who's been like him, whatever. And our squad is full of guys like this. Naby does it. Mo does it. Bobby does it. Fab does it. Ali does it. Henderson does incredible charity work. Our squad are all wonderful human beings. Wonderful, wonderful human beings.
Yeah, it makes it end.
Setting aside any thoughts on any of them as players, they are wonderful human beings. Our manager is this incredible human being. And our owners, to be fair, seem like decent human beings.
Yeah, they do.
And that's something that I think we can take great pride from. Our owners aren't a Russian oligarch who stole money from the hands of peasants in Siberia. They're not human rights violating murderers from the Middle East, like MBS. They're not other human rights violators like the boys that own City. These are good people. Our manager's a good person. Our players are good people. You don't hear about Liverpool players in the press. Like, I've never seen a story about any of this squad buying a flash new car. They all drive great, like, flash cars, but they don't flaunt it. There's no story about a Liverpool player lamping his car into the wall at 4 a.m, a la Jack Grealish. Do you know, our lads aren't like that.
Brains, though, brother. That one.
No, he is. Like, he's a very stupid human being. I mean, they spent 100 million on a Brummy Adam Lallana. I'm sorry. It is what it is. You know, get yourself on Geordie Shore, you twat. And, like...
Well, James just put in Bobby's drink driving. We have ignored.
Yeah, but Bobby's drink driving wasn't even in the papers. Bobby got stopped. He didn't lamp his car into the wall. He didn't get pictured thrown up. Yes, it's a bad thing, and he got punished within the club for it. Kloppo doesn't stand for bullshit. And our fining system at Liverpool is very, very stringent. Very, very stringent. You know, when you hear about all these managers like Frank Lampard that come into a club and Lampard's fining system, it's 2,000 if you're late, and horseshit. You're late for Klopp, you're home and you're not getting paid for the week. If you're late for a Jurgen Klopp day, you're home and you're not getting paid. Simple as that. Not a little fine that you're not going to remember. Liverpool are run very, very strictly. We're all very aware of the no dickhead clause. If you're a dickhead, you don't play for us. It's one of the reasons certain players don't play for us. It's one of the reasons we'll never sign certain players. We don't sign dickheads. We don't sign trouble. We don't get clowns or bozos or any of that. We go about our work professionally, properly, good human beings, giving back, doing things the right way. And that's why when Ginny left last year, like, nothing will ever hurt me like the way Mascherano and Suarez leaving did, because I love those players. We weren't a great team with Suarez. We almost won the league, but we weren't a great team. We were Suarez and co.
They both elevated us, though.
Yeah, but they were also there's a mentalness to the two of them that I just love. It might be because I'm a bit touched myself, but there's a manic nature to how they are that I could really relate to. But Ginny leaving really hurt me last summer because Ginny was such a good guy and he was such a likable person. And he was, again, like Sadio, such a key part of everything that we did. Even though I've known Sadio's been leaving, or I've had this strong feeling that Sadio's leaving, it hurts not so much from a football sense, because I think from a football sense, we'll be all right. We'll be all right. We've lost better players than Sadio, as good and all as he's been. You know, we lost Suarez, and we were all right. Took us a while, but we were all right. We've got Diaz, we've got Darwin, we've got Jota. Sadio's replacements are there. We're going to be all right from a footballing point of view. What we're losing is the guy. We're losing the man, Sadio Mane. And that's, I knew we'd be all right. I know we'll be right, but it's the human connection with this group of players that I think are, because they all seem like good, a part-time job and working in Marks and Spencer's.
We don't know where the food's coming from.
Yeah, life's shit when you've got no money. Like, and they're saying, and that's the, and you can. It opens them up as humans, not as machines, not as robots. There's a vulnerability to our players that you feel like when Virgil hurt his knee, we'd always looked at Virgil as this kind of cyborg. Like, this isn't a human being. He's not from the same planet as us. Look at him. But then you see, how his recovery is and what he went through in his recovery, and you connect to him. Thiago, we've always looked at and thought, what a player. Like, what an absolutely incredible player. You can't relate to a player of that much talent. But then you see him out and about with his family, walking around Liverpool with his wife and his kids. And you're like, he's just a normal guy. Yeah. He just wants to be a normal guy. He's not He's not hiding in a mansion behind big gates. He's out in the city having ice cream in March with his family, like, because he wants to live a normal life. And you connect to players like that, and we've connected with Sadio from day one when he would copy the celebrations of Bobby, and it was like, look how cute Sadio is, to seeing him develop into this absolute killer, this absolute machine.
Superb.
And
what a journey, dude. What a journey.
Yeah, and like, you know, that's where it hurts. It's the human element of losing him. And I hope he does brilliantly at Bayern. I hope he absolutely smashes it at Bayern. But I hope he turns in two stinkers if we play them in the Champions League.
Yeah.
You know,
him against Virgil will be fun. Him
against Virg, him against Ibu, him against Trent. You know, he's going to, at some point, he's going to wander over and try and pick a fight with Robbo as well. Like that's the other part we didn't mention is Sadio was one of those who always brought a little bit of needle to the team. And he'd get involved in these running battles with people, and he'd be pulling out of them and clipping their heels. And there's a little bit of bastard in Sadio that's always overlooked.
Remember the Edison sending off?
Yeah.
Against oh my God. Absolutely.
Do you remember we played Arsenal, I think it was it last season, not the season just gone, maybe the season before, and he got involved in this running battle with Rob Holding. And he was absolutely rinsing Holding. And Holding was trying to pull him and kick him. So Sadio just started pulling him and kicking him back. And the two of them were getting proper feisty, and the ref had to get involved a couple of times. But at the end of the game, Sadio went straight over to him and shook his hand. As if, it's just part of the game, you know? And Holding was quite...
I remember watching games gracious last year, and everybody in Discord being like, get Sadio off, he's going to get sent off, because he's got a yellow. And he's just
he's always living on that fucking edge, and like I say, there's a bit of bastard in Sadio, which is in complete contrast to the nice guy that he actually
guy
is.
That we know, or heard of.
It's part of what's made him a great player. Like I said, you look at him and Mo in that 17-20 run, and they're like two sharks with blood in the water, just absolutely determined that there is a kill coming, and God bless you if you're the one bleeding. They were phenomenal. That front three was phenomenal. The front three before it with Coutinho instead of Mo was phenomenal. It's been an unbelievable journey with Sadio. And seeing him grow in terms of his personality and his confidence and all that as well has been wonderful. I really do hope he feels appreciated by the fan base. Because I've seen a few journalists, and I'm to be completely honest, most of them have been African-based, come out and say he's never been loved enough by the Liverpool fan base. And I'm sorry, it's terrible. It's bullshit. It's a nonsensical take. I will say those people don't deserve the abuse they've gotten back in return. They certainly don't deserve people going into their DMs and sending them messages telling them to die and stuff. That's disgusting behaviour. But those takes are dreadful. Like, Sadio is loved among the Liverpool fan base. The whole idea of Sadio versus Mo has always been a media concoction. It's always been bullshit. It's Sadio and Mo. It has always been the two of them. They've driven each other to this incredible level. But you see them interact away from the pitch. Yeah, I'm sure they get a bit testy with each other on the pitch when one of them doesn't pass to the other, whatever. But you see them away from the pitch and how they interact, and the fact that they do all this gym work together. Like, these boys have put in serious hours together over the last 5 years. You don't do that with someone you don't like. They've driven each other step by step by step.
The way they talk to each other, people don't understand that. The things they do to look after each other, like they did the same stuff. They had the same guy, I think he left Liverpool as a physio, but they both hired him personally to look after them at home, to do sessions with them to recovery home. Both of them literally followed similar steps in their Liverpool career to make sure that they would stay at the top. And it doesn't happen by itself. You talk to each other. That's how it's so similar. You don't copy. They just talk to each other. And when people say they hate each other, I can't believe it. Like, you look at them when they play football.
It's nonsense. It's
How much they
absolute
link
nonsense.
up in the last 2-3 years? It was unbelievable.
Yeah, it's such a horrible narrative that has run and run and run and been allowed to run and run. Now, I'm sure, look, the club have just probably laughed at it and come like, why would we bother commenting on something so stupid? But shame on anybody who's ever driven that narrative.
Yeah.
Shame on you. You should just be fucking slapped. But I do really hope that he does feel the love that we all have for him. And I really do hope we draw Bayern in the Champions League at some point during the next couple of years. Because I do want him to come back to Anfield. And I want like a big fucking mosaic to him. I want a standing applause that lasts for the entire first half. He deserves all of it. He deserves all of it. And the same will be true of Bobby and of Mo and of Fab and all those others when they move on. But he's the one that's gone now, and he's the one that deserves it. And I'll say as well, if and when Ginny ever comes back, he fucking deserves it too. So make sure he gets it. But
well,
yeah,
Ginny did get a nice send off. To be fair, he got a guard.
To be fair, he did. Yeah, he did. But if he comes back, he deserves it. A nice.
Right?
Yeah,
that's what I mean for Mane. You know, it's okay.
Yeah, yeah. Like, look, Divock got his, and that's great. Sadio, but I suppose it's different because Divock and Ginny left as free agents. Sadio is a transfer leaving with a year left in his contract. But no, I really do hope that.
As we know, Liverpool manage transfers very differently nowadays.
Yeah.
Very cloak and daggery, and they don't want to give anything away at all. They hand it all to any kind of, other club. And unfortunately, that's why he wouldn't get that send off. In the olden days, remember, people would know Rush is leaving or Aldridge is leaving before the games, and they'd get send offs and all that. That's never going to happen unless they're leaving for free now. That's never going to happen. So it's a shame. But yeah, sorry, Dave.
No, I'm completely in agreement with you. I think you're absolutely spot on, and I think it is just important that we always maintain that level of respect and of admiration for this guy and what he's done for us as a club and what he will continue to do as a human being. Is, for me, again, like, that's the most important thing here. Is not how good of a player he's been. It's what an incredible human being he is. That's what we're losing here. An incredible human being. And I sound like it's a fucking, a wake for him. But no, we're just not going to have him at the club anymore. And I think the dressing room suffers a little bit. It's a little bit of a blow to the dressing room to lose someone like Sadio. Naby's losing his best mate at the club, but I'm sure Naby will be fine. I reckon Naby gets on with everybody. He's also going to lose his other best mate because the trio is Sadio, Naby, and Taki. Yeah. They're the three that spend so much time together. So Naby's going to lose both his besties. So he'll have to.
I think
he'll have to get himself
fine.
I think Naby will be all right.
Ibu's been hanging around. And
yeah, that's the thing. He's got Ibu now.
Ibu bullies everyone. It's so funny. He just walks up to us and says, "What?"
He just bumps into them. But yeah, I mean, like that's the thing. We're losing Sadio. We lost Ginny. But Ibu, we got Ibu in last summer with Ginny going out. Another great human being. Another outstanding individual young man. And we're going to have the honour now of watching his career develop at this club. Everything I've heard of Darwin Núñez is that off the pitch, away from it all, this is an absolute diamond of a human being. And the same thing goes for Diaz. And we've always talked about it. When Liverpool look at players, we don't just look at what they can do on the pitch. We look at what they're like off the pitch. We look at what they've been through off the pitch. Do they have that, quote unquote, that dog in them? Do they have that extra burning desire? Do they have that weight of others relying on them that drives them forward? And with Ibu, he has it. With Darwin, he has it. With Diaz, he has it.
He's got a very young family, Darwin. He's I think there's been pictures I've seen with him and his wife and his little baby. So again, straight away, player coming in, settled, knows what he's playing for, not for himself, he's playing for his family, and that
playing for his wife, his kid, his brother, who gave up his own career for him, parents, probably 1,000 people back in Uruguay that rely on him because that's just how it works. Same thing with Diaz. people back in Colombia that rely on him, that he is trying to improve the lives of. The region he's from is a very, very poor region, and he will want to go back and do as much as he can, and he continues to do that. Same with Darwin. Suarez used to do. We never heard of Suarez, how much Suarez was doing. If you read some of the stuff that came out when he was at Atletico Madrid of how much of his money he sends back to Uruguay, your eyes will pop out of your head.
You mentioned Suarez. It's a very wholesome conversation between Suarez and Darwin doing the rounds online, wasn't there? About Suarez saying he said, I hope to be anything like what you did at Liverpool, and he goes, I hope you score way more goals than I did at Liverpool, and that's really nice of Suarez to say something like that, isn't it? And
man, if the mood took me, I'd get started on bring Suarez back for a year bandwagon, but we'll leave that. We'll leave that for now.
I think there'd be a lot of people against it too.
Yeah, there would, but I don't care. Fuck them all. No, that's the thing. Like we're very, very fortunate. Like, it's an honor for these players to play for our club.
Yeah.
But it's also an honour for us to watch these boys become men, young men become older men, watch them mature, watch them develop, watch them go from a promising player to a great player. It's an honour for us as well. It was an honour to watch Steven Gerrard play for Liverpool. It was an honour to watch Suarez play for Liverpool. It's been an honour to watch this team, and especially guys like Sadio.
Yeah.
So I've never been so happy to be proven wrong in all my life. But what a buy. What an absolutely amazing buy. 35 million plus a few add-ons and worth...
He's going for a similar price?
And worth every single penny of it from what we bought. Like, worth 5 times what we paid from. Just
absolutely. I think you summed it up beautifully there, Dave, and thank you so much for taking your time out on a Saturday to do this pod and wish a legend goodbye. It's not official just yet, but when Joycey tweets, we pretty much know it's happening. So apparently he's doing his medical today. If you're listening on Sunday, this is obviously talking about Saturday. So yeah, it's going to be announced shortly. This, if you're listening to this, it should have maybe already been announced. So yes, we both and everybody at AI and all the listeners, I'm sure, wish Sadio Mane the best in his future, apart from when he plays us. But otherwise, we'll be watching the Bayern games now for you, and willing you on to win, because you gave us so much. And that's, we'll never forget you, Sadio. Never ever, a legend forever. And you won absolutely everything. Gave us all the great memories and moments, and yeah, we watched you grow from being that new kid like we talked about to this leader. And I hope you go on to lead more. It was a pleasure to see you win the AFCON as well. So yeah, absolutely superb. We wish you all the best from everyone at AI. I'm sure the UP guys are going to be doing a deep dive into Sadio this week as well, into his numbers. So that'll be a great listen and a good way to say bye to a legend. And we'll see you soon. Up the Reds.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.